My greetings on behalf of the Women on the Move Network, who is one of the sponsors of these workshops. And we have a wonderful, delightful group of presenters today, and I'm supposed to be introducing them, but we will get to that in just a few minutes, because an iconic woman, one of the founders of the Women on the Move Network, departed this physical realm as of last week, and we're still mourning in her loss. I would like to dedicate a little portion of this program in the beginning to her, because she meant the world to us, and she was really she played a critical role in starting this foundation and this empowering of girls and women under the name of Women on the Move Network. And therefore, we would have a video to show you, which is about 6 minutes, and Andrea will help me do that. But there is a statement from our president, our chair of the Women on the Move Board of Directors. And in order to do this justice, I would just read from that. And I hope you forgive me for not having it memorized, because I'm, again, a little frazzled over what has happened all day. So what we want you to know from Wilma is that this is our heavy heart, and it's with profound sadness that we share the news of her passing. Dr. Wilma Ellis Kazemzadeh peacefully departed from this world on Friday, the 30th of June at about 3 p.m., surrounded by her loved ones. Wilma was an extraordinary individual and an extraordinary woman who touched the lives of many with her kindness, with her warmth, with her unwavering love, but more than anything, with her resilience in light of all the odds that life threw her way. And without going into details, she suffered many tests and tribulations throughout her childhood, and she grew up to be this gracious, dignified, accomplished woman, a trailblazer. And considering that it was at the age of 50 that she was able to get her doctorate degree, because that was the first time that Black women were allowed to enter the higher education. That will tell so much about who she is. And I really hope that all of us will look her up, Dr. Wilma Ellis Kazemzadeh, and we'll see a video, and then you will judge for yourself. So she will be remembered for her amazing accomplishments, her sharp mind, her unbending faith, and the principles. In one of her blogs, she says that her 8th grade teacher taught the group of Black girls in the class as if it was the last level of education they would ever accomplish. And you could imagine what life would be when you cannot dream beyond 8th grade and you cannot be given that opportunity. And yet she accomplished so much. Her absence leaves an immeasurable void in our hearts, in our lives, and we'll find solace in just cherishing her memories forever. So Women on the Move Network will find many ways to honor her, to just keep honoring her legacy. And we hope that it will continue to be a source of inspiration for all of you who are part of us and who help us grow and make her spirit happy and joyful in the realms of love. Women on the Move wishes to pay homage to our visionary founder, Dr. Wilma Ellis. We have arranged for a little surprise as part of this tribute by inviting someone very special to offer his insight into the life, work, mission, and convictions of this legendary woman who has broken the silence in many occasions by her unfailing wisdom.
Wilma has always been committed to the service of humanity, always. Since my childhood, I always remember her being actively involved in service to the community on any level she had access to. And so it was not surprising that in her later years, actually in retirement, she looked around for other opportunities to be of service to the community. And so she found Women on the Move, and it became a 20-year labor of love and service to the upliftment of girls and women. We're all so grateful for the work that Women on the Move has done because it inspires young girls to believe in themselves, to understand what their capacity can be, and the kind of effect they can have on the transformation of the lives of all of the people that they come in contact with, the families that they form, the families that they're a part of, the friends that they have, and the communities in which they reside. That foundation of confidence and belief that I can have a positive effect on all of the people I contact is fundamental to a happy and fulfilled life.
Once upon a time, the three of us sat at this table, and we were having tea or something, I don't know what. And Wilma was telling us that she had been to Ireland.
I went to Irish Baha'i summer school. They wanted me to participate. They said, would you please take the afternoon with all the girls, young girls, teenage girls. And I said, fine, I'll do that. All I said was, I introduced things, subjects. How is your school life going? And they really talked about their lives. I kept getting one theme that bothered me. And that was, I'm not really happy. And that got my attention, of course.
Remember when you were telling us about the conference, the women's conference, you've been to Ireland, how excited you were and how well done it was and how important it was for women to be involved in every strata of society.
During those teenage years, if there's not a purpose that this is mine and this is what I'm contributing, then they feel a little adrift.
Respect, integrity, and nobility of spirit. That was going to be our focus.
The most important thing that Women on the Move has done is we have not lost the vision.
A very close friend of Wilma, the lady that you saw on the table, and the person who is the backbone of the Who's Your Hero program and a strongest member of the board of directors of the Women on the Move Network. And she's here with us, Barbara Marino. Would you please say a few words about Wilma, just to get everyone familiar with her, and then we could go to our wonderful presentation.
Yes. As Sohaila mentioned, Wilma's departure this world is a loss for all of us. At the same time, we need to focus on what we have, not what we lost, but what we have. And what we have are myriads of memories of Wilma in her various roles. She was a very capable administrator. She was an educator. She was an organizer. She was many things. But in view of the fact that this presentation today of the Women's Workshop is going to be about relationships, I want to mention Wilma and relationships. She touched the lives of literally thousands and thousands of people during her 90+ years on this earth. If you needed a soft shoulder, if you needed someone to pray for you, if you needed someone to help you solve a problem, if you needed someone just to tell you, okay, it's going to be all right, we can work it out. Whatever you needed, if you came to Wilma, you were not disappointed. And I think the thing that, in addition to her wisdom, the thing that characterized her relationships with people most was her love. Wilma really knew how to love. And she loved without restraint and without conditions. She was no fool. You couldn't pull the wool over her eyes. Nevertheless, if Wilma loved you, you were truly loved. And I consider myself to be extremely fortunate to have been loved by her. In fact, quite by accident, the dress that I'm wearing is one that Wilma gave me. I was at her house one day and she said, here's a catalog, pick 2 dresses and I'll order them for you out of the clear blue. You know, I was not destitute, I had clothes, but Wilma decided I needed a couple of new dresses. And so that's what happened. Wilma knew how to love. She knew how to make people feel special, to make people feel loved. And for that reason, her legacy is unending into the future. That's it.
Well said, Ms. Marino. From an educator, we wouldn't expect anything less than well-articulated description of dearest Wilma. So as part of my introduction, I was supposed to be introducing our beautiful students by name and who goes first and who goes next. And of course, I've totally lost all of that order in my brain. But I just want to give you maybe a 2-minute or a 1-minute backdrop as to why we have this session conducted and presented by our students from University of La Verne. Our faith community, the Baha'i community of the areas within the Inland Empire, have been blessed with this wonderful connection with the School of Religion from the University of La Verne, where during the summer, their summer volunteers who sign up for a course in community service, they will pick different faith communities to serve them and help them with their not just religious activities and learning and educating themselves on the principles and core beliefs of those faiths, but also engaging themselves in some of their nonprofit public service type of community building, so that they will be gaining some experience when they get back to the regular, semesters and programs. So over the course of the last more than a decade, we've been blessed with receiving brilliant minds, beautiful souls, and very kind hearts of the students, which really gives us a different perspective on everything we do. Our communities are benefiting from receiving these students. And this year, this year we were blessed with 4 such students. And in no particular order, I will start with looking at Mario on top, Mario Sabri, and Idalys, and Annette, and Simone. Those are the presenters today. And because they have a very beautiful, fresh, clean slate of looking at life perspectives and life issues, I should say, that we decided that they will be benefiting, the Women on the Move organization by giving their insights as to some of the topics that we deal with. And the topic of their choice was the relationships from the Z generation. So without further ado, I'm going to ask whoever the first 2 were. I believe it might have been Simone and Idalys as the first ones. If not, just you jump in, introduce yourselves, your major, your interest in joining the Baha'i faith community, but more so in the doing of the public work and the social action work that you've been doing in community building with us.
Hi.
Hello.
Okay, let's see. Okay. My name is Simone Warren, and I'm a criminology major with a minor in forensics. And my interest with the Baha'i community is that I really wanted to learn about new things. I love learning about new things, new religion, just different ways of looking at life. And so I think that's what my main motive is for choosing the Baha'i community. And so far, I really like it.
Hello, everyone. My name is Idalys. I'm a psychology major and I have a minor in child development. So in the future, I want to be a psychologist with an emphasis relating towards family and children. And I chose the Baha'i faith specifically to learn more about religion. And I like the aspect where we get to learn about all religions, not just the Baha'i aspect. So.
Would you two just chime in on what brought you to helping the Women on the Move network organization, and what kind of social action, and what prompted you to give this, choose this topic as presentation today?
I think, let's see. I think it's very important to get involved. And for me personally, I haven't really been involved with anything like the Women on the Move network or anything like that. So this is my first time actually being involved in something like this. But I think for me, it's important to get involved, and it's important to give back to the community, because that way you can kind of put like a positive stamp on somebody's life. You never know how much you impact someone's life. So I think that for me is a really like important goal in my life, is just to really give back and be a positive influence.
Thank you.
And then I would also add that since a lot of my emphasis is towards children, it's really important to learn the dynamic of what it means to be a woman and what it means to be a man. So I also really like that aspect of when I chose Baha'i, because it was tied in with an organization that focused on what it means to be a woman and what it means to empower a woman. And our topic kind of ties into that, because we get to really explain what it means to empower a relationship and give light to both aspects of what it means to be in a relationship without tearing anyone down and so on.
Okay, so my name is Annette, and I am a rising junior at the University of La Verne, and I'm an English major, and I want to be a professor. And the program that we're in is called Summer Service, and I chose the Baha'i community. Actually, one of the reasons was the Women on the Move, because I was really interested in women empowerment, and I think that's something that I've always been really attracted to. Like, I really enjoy learning and helping women, and because I'm a woman. So I think that's really important and really interesting for me. And we chose relationships because, well, like an idea that I had that I'm going to go into is I feel like relationships are sometimes not portrayed the best and in the best way in media. So like things that are really shown for like the younger generation, so like in music or like in movies or TV shows and stuff like that. So I just wanted to choose this topic. I think that's kind of like, I think relationships is also like an important concept or like an important thing for kids our age. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead with your presentation, and we'll have Mario do his part at the end.
Okay. Yeah. So it's me, and then it's Simone. And Idalys created the slides, by the way, so that's where they're really pretty. Yeah. So our title is Empowering Relationships by me and Idalys and Mario and Simone.
Whose dog is that?
I don't know. Okay, so we wanted to start off with just kind of talking about what a relationship is, since that is what we're going to be talking about. So kind of just like some things that we wanted to throw out there about like what a relationship is that it means being committed to a person. It means trusting and respecting that person as well as you're a team. Like there shouldn't be one person that is giving in the relationship. You don't want to feel like you're the one who always has to compromise in that relationship. Also feeling safe and comfortable. I think those are two really big things in a relationship. You want to be with someone that makes you feel safe and you're comfortable around and you feel like you don't have to change yourself. Also like being in a relationship means that you're emotionally available. You're not going to just kind of push your partner aside because you're not push your partner's feelings aside because you're not in the mood or you're not feeling like talking to them, like you should be there for your partner. And that kind of ties into being supportive in what they do. Like obviously it can be subjective, maybe you don't support certain things, but generally like overall supporting your partner and not hindering their progress and their success. And then the next slide is actually a video that I wanted to show kind of like the other side, like what is an unhealthy relationship. So I'm going to play it and I'm going to hope that the sound works. Can you guys hear it? Yeah. Okay.
Healthy relationships are one of the best things in the world. They lift us up, challenge us, support us, and make us feel like we're superhuman. Nothing can get us down when we're in a good relationship, especially ones that are just beginning. But if you're in the beginning stages of getting to know someone, how can you tell if it really is healthy? Often we get so wrapped up in ourselves that we don't see when relationships are unhealthy. It might seem like a far away, it'll never happen to us thing, but unhealthy relationships are more common than you would think, and sometimes sneak up on you. If you suspect you might be in an unhealthy relationship, listen on and see if any of these match up to you and your bow. 1. You fight a lot. No, we don't mean arguing over who has to clean up after you've both cooked dinner. We're talking about yelling, threatening, and screaming at each other. If you two are getting into screaming matches over every little disagreement, you need to rethink why you two are together in the first place. 2. You hide things. And we don't mean candy or Easter eggs. We mean things like texting other people, lying about where you were, or other dishonest actions. If your partner will get mad at you for texting your best friend forever, or going out with friends instead of staying home with them, you might just be in an unhealthy relationship. 3. This way or the highway. If your relationship always revolves around how the other person wants to do things or how you want to do things, you're not in a good relationship. Partnerships involve being partners. This means you need to compromise, listen, and discuss before actions are taken. If it's always one person's way, you two need to sit down and sort it out before resentment and anger starts to breed. 4. You feel guilty. This one's a little harder to pin down. Your partner might not even be aware that you're feeling this way. Heck, you might not even be aware that you're feeling this way. If you get worried about taking time for yourself, or if you feel that you're not allowed to, address it with your partner. It might be a miscommunication, or it might be a clue that your relationship isn't as healthy as you think. 5. It's one-sided. So much of relationships is about sharing your burdens. When you're in a relationship, you get someone to lean on, talk about problems with, and help to deal with your struggles, and vice versa. You need to make sure you're available to be a support system for your partner, letting them lean on you when they need to. The relationship is based on one person or the other. It's not a real relationship. It's just taking advantage of someone. 6. They put you down. We don't mean physically. We mean that they put down your hopes and don't support you in your dreams. You need someone just as brilliant as you are. Someone who will help you achieve your goals, or at least cheer you along the way while you strive for them yourself. Any partner that says your goals are stupid is not a partner you want to have. Get out, quick. 7. They refuse to do things that matter to you. If you've said 3 times that you hate when the dishes sit in the sink for days on end and your partner still doesn't change their slovenly ways, you need to get out. They clearly don't respect you as much as you respect them. If they did, they would listen to your concerns and make an effort to do the things that matter the most to you. 8. You're codependent. This one's a little trickier to identify. If you and your partner can't live without talking to each other every minute of every day, you need to reevaluate your priorities. Your relationship should be a happy addition to your life. 9. They make you feel insecure. Your significant other should make you feel like you're the greatest thing in the world. Why? Because you are. You're an intelligent, hardworking individual who respects yourself. And if your partner isn't respecting you, you need to leave them. They aren't healthy for you and you deserve better. If you feel insecure in any way, get yourself out. You're in an unhealthy relationship and you'll be much happier without them. 10. They're abusive. It seems obvious, but sometimes people in relationships can't see what's actually going on. They justify their partner's actions or take the blame on themselves. Don't. If your partner is verbally, physically, or sexually abusive, you need to get help and get out. If you aren't sure how, or if you need help, talk to a counselor or doctor or someone else you trust. They'll be able to get you the resources you need to take care of yourself. 11. You change yourself to be what they want. This is a subtle sign of an unhealthy relationship, but should be a big red flag. If your partner says, I like blondes, and you go out and dye your hair, it means your partner doesn't actually want to be with you. They want to be with their ideas. Find someone who loves you for you, and then you'll know you're in a healthy relationship. 12. You're unhappy. The biggest sign of being in an unhealthy relationship is when you're unhappy. A relationship is meant to be a positive experience. You're supposed to look forward to seeing your partner, not dread or stress about fitting them into your schedule. Let the relationship go, and you'll feel much happier. Trust us, no relationship is better than an unhealthy relationship. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, and as always,
Okay. So now that we kind of have like an idea of what a healthy and an unhealthy relationship is, I'm going to move on. Okay. Oh wait, my bad. Okay. So since specifically us four are Gen Z, and I think that relationships are portrayed a certain way in the media at times. And it's something that is probably like predominantly affects our generation. I wanted to talk about unhealthy relationships in the media. So I'm going to touch on music and like TV shows, movies, and then social media itself. So yeah. The first one I wanted to talk about is the music culture, and kind of just like the reason why that like it is bad thing for unhealthy relationships to be portrayed in the media, or kind of like this sort of just unhealthy attitude towards a gender that you're attracted to is not a good thing, is because people who are going to be listening to this music, or people who are going to be watching these things, are going to look at these things and they're going to think that they're normal. They're going to think that it's normalized, and that is not a good thing, because people are going to be treated very poorly. So here I took these three quotes from music, and I won't read them out loud, but if you read them, they don't treat women in the best way, and they don't treat partners in respectful ways. And then when people listen to these things, they might believe that these things are normal to do, and that it's okay to treat your partner poorly, or to hit your partner, or to call your partner a rude name, pretty much. And then the second one that I wanted to talk about is movies and TV shows. I took two couples. The couple on the left is from a really popular TV show from when we were younger, I would say, called Pretty Little Liars. And that couple is actually a student and a teacher. And I remember when I was younger, like everyone was saying like, oh, it's okay, like they're in love, like it's fine. But they weren't a healthy relationship at all. Like that is not a healthy relationship. And they didn't treat each other the best. They argued, but then all the girls were like, oh, it's fine, he's cute, like all these things. And then we get people who think that this stuff is normal. And then if we look at the other couple on the right, that's Bella and Edward from Twilight, which is like a really, 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 really popular movie and TV and movie series. And in this scene particularly that I picked, he's actually watching her sleep. He broke into her room and watched her sleep. And girls are like, this is so cute, romantic. Like, I want someone who would do that. And it just creates this unhealthy portrayal of what relationships should be. And then people will look at this and think that it's cute and that it's normal, when it shouldn't be. And then moving on to social media, this is like more of a recent thing that's been happening. So there's this couple called Blueface and Krishan Rock, and they argue on social media so much. And she's pregnant with his child, and they will just argue, and people will take sides, and people will be like, oh, this is love, like they're fighting for their love. But if you were to read the things that they say to each other on social media, it is just so terrible. Like he says, oh, the child's not mine, she's with other men and she's trying to defend herself. And there's just so much negativity on social media with this couple. And it's not just this couple, it's like you get to see so many other couples like just tweeting out their arguments. And especially with like famous people, people start taking sides, people start saying, oh, Blueface is not in the wrong, he has the right to say all these things, like women cheat, women sleep around, like those are things that men say in the comments of these tweets. So it just creates a very negative and very unhealthy relationship standard that people are glamorizing and romanticizing. And yeah, and then now it's going to be Simone's turn.
My turn. Okay, so a lot of the couples that we grew up with in the media and on TV and just being around, they all have very abusive tendencies. And so it's easy, but they've been portrayed as being cute and being nice and being, the something that everyone wants or every woman wants. And that's not true. They're actually very abusive and very toxic. And I think as a generation, we kind of we know what it is, but we're not calling it out for what it is. So I'm going to explain it in extreme. Before I get into it, I want to give like a little trigger warning. This is very heavy. I do talk about the various different types of abuse. So if you feel the need to leave the Zoom, that's fine. But it will be very heavy and very just a little dark. Fair warning. Annette, could you go to the next slide, please? Okay, so first I'm going to start off with emotional abuse. So what is emotional abuse? Or sometimes it's called psychological abuse. But emotional abuse occurs when someone uses words or nonviolent behaviors to extort power and control over you. An example would be like your partner constantly dismisses your ideas and thoughts and makes you feel unimportant. So basically, it talks about what we showed in the video, how if you want to be a painter and your partner tells you that's stupid or that's not a good career choice, it doesn't make a lot of money, that's another form of emotional abuse. Another extreme form could be like degrading or verbal abuse, constantly like beating you down, constantly blaming you for things, or making false accusations like Blueface and Krishan. Blueface falsely accuses Krishan of cheating, and Krishan's like, I've only ever been with you. That's another form of emotional abuse. He's playing on her emotions. Some signs for the victim, someone who has been through emotional abuse, is self-criticism, extreme self-criticism, depression, anxiety, constantly apologizing for everything, over-explaining their actions. It's just a sign that they've had to feel the need to explain themselves to their partner or have to kind of have some type of explanation to justify why they do normal things. Another one would be random isolation. For the abuser, it would be guilt tripping or gaslighting, criticizing, dismissing, neglecting their partner, again, verbal abuse, or monitoring, my apologies. Just checking to see why they're texting this person or saying like they're cheating or always checking their phone, different things like that. To be alert and aware, be aware of how your partner interacts with others and how they view others. That can kind of tell you a lot of how that person is going to treat you, in my experience. So if your partner is very disrespectful to women and constantly puts other women down, chances are they're going to do the same to you. Be aware of how they deal with criticism that's given to them. So a lot of abusers, they have a hard time like taking in criticism or taking accountability. And so they tend to lash out or they tend to become verbally or physically abusive. So just be aware if you see anyone with those signs to kind of stay clear. Look into how their past relationships went and ended. And I say this with caution because not everyone is abusive. But if you sense that there are some abusive tendencies, I would say to look into past relationships because chances are there is a continuing pattern of them just constantly being emotionally abusive to all their partners. So yeah, there's a distinct pattern. There's going to be a pattern, chances are, with certain abusers or like basically all abusers, they have a certain pattern. So I would definitely look into that. And just a little disclaimer, I'm going to keep saying this after every slide. Abuse happens to anyone and cannot always be prevented. It is never your fault. Next slide, please. Physical abuse, what is it? It's basically any physical force that injures you or puts your health in danger. Examples could be shaking, burning you, choking you, hair pulling, hitting, slapping, kicking, or any type of harm with a weapon such as knife or gun. There are also threats of physical abuse are included. Signs of physical abuse, the victim, typically black eyes, bruises, busted lips, sprained body parts that typically wouldn't normally be sprained, or abnormal behavior such as shutting down, not talking as much, just any behavior that is drastically different from how you know them to be. Random isolation, reports of an angry partner, that tends to be the main excuse, like, oh, he just has a bad temper, or he just gets angry when he drinks. Those are some red flags. Irritation, helplessness, feeling like there's no way out, or this is the best that they're going to get. Constant excuses, that goes with helplessness. Self-blame, just saying, oh, I made him angry. I moved their things, and so they didn't like that, so they lashed out, and that's okay. It's never okay. That should never be the reaction of something as simple as moving a drink over. For the abuser, they like to control aspects of your life, such as who you hang out with, who you see, how you dress, how you talk, whether or not you cut or change your hair, different things like that. Bad-tempered, it tends to get worse with alcohol or drug use. Hitting or throwing objects, they tend to incorporate verbal abuse and minor changes in behavior. For the pattern, it starts off with minor changes, and then just to see what they can get away with, and if you're going to take it, and then they escalate to the physical abuse. And then degradation tactics, they do things that kind of deteriorate your self-confidence and your self-esteem and your self-worth so that they can continue to abuse you how they would like. To be alert and to be aware, please pay attention to how they deal with stresses in their life. That's one of the #1 things leading to physical abuse, is the abuser not being able to handle the stressors in their life, so they take it out on you. Pay attention to any drinking or drug habits. That's also one of the main reasons leading up to physical abuse, is that they abuse substances first and then go into physical abuse. Look at family history and child abuse. That's one of the main ones, coming from a criminology perspective. That's for one of the main reasons, or not reasons, but main contributors or factors to physical abuse, is that they've been either abused as a child or they have come from a dysfunctional household. Love bombing before and after attack. So they buy you gifts, they tell you they love you, tell you they'll never do it again, and then they do it again. And then they tell you they love you, they'll never do it again, they give you gifts, different things like that. That's what love bombing is just constantly giving you gifts, constantly giving you affirmations, just randomly every day. Pay attention to any controlling behaviors disguised as concerns. So if you're hanging out with, say, a friend, or you have a coworker who happens, say it's a male and a female in a relationship, and a coworker who is male, he's like, hey, let's go lunch, let's go talk about our case together. And your abuser or your boyfriend, they're like, no, I don't like you hanging out with him, he's a bad guy, I just don't want you to go to lunch with him. And he gets very jealous, and he gets very, very angry over just a simple meeting with a coworker, or telling you can't hang out with that coworker anymore, and then escalating to friends or even your family members. You can't see this family member because I don't like how this family member is, or I don't like this family member. Or simply checking your phone, or you need to answer my call every time I call you. You need to answer my text messages when I text you. Why didn't you answer? Those things are considered, they say, are concerns. They're actually controlling behaviors. And also do a free background check. Like they're most of the times they're free or they're like $1. You could get like a deal on one of the websites. It definitely helps. Do a background check because again, this behavior is it can be repeated and it can be a pattern. And so if it's a pattern, there's more likely that they have gotten in trouble with law enforcement, or they have been arrested, or they have maybe potentially, if they have a drinking habit, they could have a DUI and those things like that. So definitely do a background check. And then of course, my disclaimer, it can happen to anyone and can't always be prevented. It's never, ever, ever your fault. Next slide, please. Okay. Sexual abuse. So what is it? This one's a heavy one, but sexual abuse is any activity that occurs without consent. It can include unwanted sex, touching, forced oral sex, and rape, among other sexual acts. For example, your partner tells you that if you love them, then you would perform sexual acts for them, even after you said you did not feel like it. Some signs for the victim is like anxiety about certain people or certain places, persistent sadness, depression, low self-esteem, disrupted sleep or having nightmares, or to the extreme, self-harm behaviors. For the abuser, they create a dependency. So again, they attack your self-confidence, they isolate you, they tell you all types of lies just to get you to kind of depend on them and feel that they're your only hope, basically. Likes to be excessively dominant and controlling through sex. This is a major red flag, unless it's consensual. But if it's not consensual and they just have very dominant and very controlling tendencies that doesn't sit right with you, definitely leave them. Very aggressive, even if it's just minor things in everyday life, they're very aggressive. The way they approach confrontation is aggressive. Also jealous tendencies, just getting jealous if we're trying to talk to the opposite sex. Again, like if it's a coworker, your boss, or a close friend, things like that. They think that you're more likely to sleep with them, which is not true, but that's typically their thinking. Pushes sexual boundaries. This is a really big one. If you disclose that you don't like something in bed and they continue to do it, then that is a red flag and they're more likely to not listen. When you say no, or when you say that you don't want to do something anymore, just to disclose, you have a right to say that you don't want to do something anymore. Even if you said yes before, you have a right to say stop and I don't want to do this anymore. Just putting that out there. Being alert and being aware. Pay attention to their reaction to boundaries. Again, someone who is sexually abusive, they tend to ignore boundaries, or they tend to continue to push boundaries until they get to the utmost extreme. Pay attention to their language and the topics that they bring up via conversation. So someone who is sexually abusive, they tend to talk about sex a lot and sexual actions, and they tend to be very objective. Like they see women in like an objective type of way all the time, just speaking from experience. So definitely pay attention to those topics, and the language that they use can be very manipulative. It could be it'll only be like a minute, like it'll only be a few minutes, just a little bit, just for tonight, things like that. Pay attention to how they react to their interactions with others, specifically the opposite sex of you. So again, it's like a territorial thing. If you're with the opposite sex, they're like, well, you're mine, you're my object, you're my property. And so they tend to be very jealous. And oftentimes it's paired with physical abuse, so they tend to be very violent as well. And then again, how do they view others? That also can help, because it can kind of show how their mind works and how they think and how they view people. Like if they view other people as property, 9 times out of 10, they're going to view you as property. And again, my lovely disclaimer, can happen to anyone, can't always be prevented, and it's never, ever, ever your fault. Next slide, please.
Are you taking questions?
Yes, I'm almost done. I have 2 slides and then we're gonna take questions. Okay. Quick little insight of why not leave. Well, 1 in 4 women and 1 in 9 men have experienced sexual violence, physical violence, and or stalking from an intimate partner in their lifetime, which have resulted in a serious injury, fear, or concern for safety. So it's very hard for someone who's in an abusive relationship to leave that relationship because they have a low self-esteem. They feel as though they have no one to turn to because they've been isolated. And that person can be very, very violent. And so they can be scared. They can be scared that they will lose their lives if they leave. So I think for our generation and our society, we tend to make jokes about things and we tend to brush them under the rug when in reality, like, this is a really serious situation. Like, this person is most likely fighting for their lives. And so most cases, it could be the death of a victim, or it could be both the victim and the abuser, because some victims tend to commit suicide after killing their victims, unfortunately. But and then some victims, they make mistakes. They've been in this abusive relationship for so long that they just feel that that's how it's supposed to be, that it's just a rough patch, that the person they met is still there, and that this is not what it is, but it's abuse. And so it's very hard for them to see it anything other than like their relationship. It's hard for them to see it as abuse because they've been living in it for so long. Women are most likely to be murdered by their partners. I believe men are also likely to be murdered, but again, there's not a lot of research and not a lot of studies on men who are in abusive relationships, just because it's not easy for them to report it as much. So we definitely have to do a lot more digging on the criminology side. But next slide, please. Al, I see your hand raised. I will get to your question after this slide. Real love doesn't hurt. Conclusion: real love doesn't hurt. Your relationship should erase your tears, not your smile. True love doesn't hurt, it should heal. You guys should be coming together to getting to know each other and growing together, and not kind of eating each other alive and being abusive and different things like that. And both men and women can be abusive. I want to put that out there. Although a lot of this has women mentioned in it, I want to mention that both men and women can be abused, and they both can be abusers. So if you know anyone, if you are being abused, here are some hotlines that you can take down and call and talk to someone, and honestly really get help. Go to someone that you really do trust. So that concludes my portion. So at this time, we will be taking questions.
Thank you. Thank you. Let me just interject a suggestion. It's a few minutes before 6, and I know that we wanted to end by about 6:15 because some people may have commitments. If it's possible to allow the other 2 students who also have their presentation to make sure that it's a good, wholesome presentation. And then if people with questions, Edie and Al, with all due respect, if you could just hold on to your questions, write it down so you don't forget. And then we'll just have a question and answer session, and whoever has to leave, can leave at that time. But otherwise, we will give due time to those who haven't presented yet. So thank you, Simone and Annette. It was one of the most brilliant presentations that I've seen about relationships, and we really, really appreciate how you spent time to put it together. Okay. Annette, you're muted, but anyway, if Idalys and Mario start getting ready.
Mario, do you want to share your screen or should I?
You can.
Okay, give me 1 moment.
If everyone turns on their screen, I could take a very nice screenshot if you don't mind. Everyone? 1, 2, 3. Okay. We can do a few more. Or Andrea could do screenshots when everyone else opens their screen. Are you ready?
Also, while she's getting ready, maybe in the end, you can ask those questions for all of us.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, you can direct any questions you want.
Yeah. So, yeah, are we ready to start your presentation?
Yeah, it was just loading.
You want me to do it? Okay, you're good.
Okay. It just took a while to load. Awesome. Okay, there we go. So I wanted to preface that my slides are more on the psychology aspect of it and what that looks like in the psychology field. So the idea of love is usually seen as this triangle theory, and it's related to intimacy, passion, and commitment. So intimacy is not the actual sexual intimacy, but rather the emotional closeness to someone. And it's usually your want the best for your partner, you have high regards of them, you can count on them in time of need, you're able to receive and give emotional support, and you're able to have this intimate conversations with them about your thoughts and feelings with your partner. And then we also have passion, and this is the physical aspect of a relationship where you tend to have an increase in heart rate when you're with your partner. There's a desire to always want to be around them. You're constantly thinking about them. And of course, there is that physical aspect of it where you want to show that connection through kissing, touching, and making love. And then lastly, we have commitment. And that is the rational aspect of love, where we try to strengthen our decision to stay with someone by choosing to stay faithful, loyal, and committed while we're working on maintaining a loving, mutual, satisfying, lasting relationship. So there are 4 ideas of what love is, and there's one ideal version, but we'll go over the other 3 first. So when someone only has intimacy and passion in a relationship, this is usually seen as romantic love. And this is the aspect that there's that physical connection, and there's also that internal connection, but there's no commitment. So when arguments and problems arise, these relationships die out. So when we have a passionate and committed relationship, there's this aspect of staying in a relationship and the physical connection, but you truly don't know the partner. So there's no real internal connection or prosperity. And then when there's intimacy and commitment, this is seen as a compassionate relationship. And it kind of looks like a friendship in a way, because there is that internal connection and you are able to commit, but there's no passion. And then the most ideal version of love is seen through intimacy, passion, and commitment. And this is known as consummate love. And it tends to be the most satisfying version of love that lasts the longest. And recently added is the communication aspect. And that is added to show that communication is seen in all versions of love, and it's very intertwined. So these are the 6 love styles that they have come up with and have researched. And this is what you tend to see in relationships or when you're starting to date people. So the first one kind of goes over this passionate style of love, and it's characterized as being really short and livid. And it's usually this concept where you see someone and you believe you're instantly in love. The second version is more focused on the attraction and like trying to get someone to choose you, but there's no real commitment, and that tends to be more sexual. The third one is more characterized towards caring and friendship, and usually when these relationships end, they tend to maintain a friendship afterwards. The fourth one tends to be more possessive and controlling, and that kind of ties into what Simone was talking about, where there's internal problems with the person and they tend to lash out with abuse. And then the fifth version is seen as this business aspect of a relationship where you have these certain criteria and rationality and practicability to a relationship before you show your love. The sixth version is the selfless, all-giving, devoted love, which is what we're used to hearing or what you're supposed to look towards. But this is more giving you an idea of the different variations of love and how people tend to show love. And then the scale on the right, it's a little blurry, but I can probably send a picture if anybody wants it later. And it kind of goes over the different type of loves and how they can connect and how successful those types of relationships are to one another. Okay, so then we have love languages, and this tends to be how we show or want to receive love. So words of affirmation is this verbal aspect of love where you tend to verbally explain your love for a person. So this can be as simple as telling them that they look beautiful or you notice something about them. Quality time is not just focused in staying in a room with someone, it's actual thought into strengthening and connecting a bond with someone. Physical touch is self-explanatory. And then acts of service are actions towards love. So it's could be something as doing someone's laundry or buying your partner coffee. And then receiving gifts and giving gifts. This is when you think about your partner, you show them a physical representation of your love, and it doesn't always have to be expensive. And then to continue this idea of love, we also want to tie it into communication. And in psychology, there's 3 patterns of communication that we tend to see, and we can go over them. So validating communication is resolving differences through quiet discussion and mutual respect. And this is generally the idea where all couples want to follow, but recent research does show that this idea of communication and conflict resolution patterns that are less validating, like the other ones that I will explain, can be just as effective in other relationships. So none of these forms of a relationship are a reason why a relationship will last. It's just a form of communication. That's basically what that means. And then vital communication is this passionate, open-minded way of expressing your feelings. And it tends to be this version of fighting out your differences until you reach a mutual agreement or a conclusion. And conflict avoidant couples tend to downplay conflict and avoid fighting. And their idea of discussion is less, but discussion still happens. And then kind of to tie into that, I wanted to explain the difference between complaining and criticism, because in a relationship, it's very healthy to complain, but there's a difference from criticizing someone. So complaining is expressing an unmet need, and it's usually something that you want to receive from your partner. And criticism is more focused on commenting on your partner's flaws. And to tie that into other versions of what negative communication or an ineffective communication, there's also contentment. And it also ties into criticism, where we tend to use hateful or disrespectful communication to talk to our partners. That kind of looks like saying, oh, this is why this doesn't happen to you, you're lazy because of this, and using that negative communication. And then we also have defensiveness, and that's more focused on not taking accountability for your actions or what you have caused your partner. You tend to, again, deny it. You want to explain why your perspective or feelings are more important than your partner's. And then lastly, we have stonewalling, and it's this passive form of powerful and aggression that is non-responsive. So that basically means that you're motionless and not reactive. And this tends to be towards the end of a relationship because people don't know how to or where to fix the relationship from here. And it also shows that stonewalling tends to be the most effective form of negative communication, outweighing the other ones that I've mentioned before. So it's more detrimental. And then to end on a happier note, I wanted to talk about how communication can get so hard in a relationship, especially when we're in those conflicts. So a lot of ways that psychologists tend to focus on improving intimate communication is these 5 keys. So we don't want things to slide. When something hurts you or you want to bring something up, you should be standing up for yourself and voicing your opinion. And secondly, you want to do your part, right? You want to take responsibility. You want to make sure that you're compromising when it's needed and you are showing love. So then we also have make it safe to connect. So this is when we don't want to downplay or belittle our partner's feelings or thoughts. We want to make sure that we're hearing them out and we're trying to truly turn on our active listening ears. And then fourth, we have the doors to positive connections. And that is related to the more times that we're able to have these hard conversations with someone, it creates that positive association because we know that we have that safe communication, we're taking accountability, and this conversation is being brought up because it generally is hurting one of us. So the more that you're able to have these conversations, the easier it is to communicate these problems and then resolve it and then move on to, in a sense, the more benefit aspects of a relationship. And then lastly, we have commitment, and that's the idea where you don't want your partner to ever question your commitment. You want to make sure that you are faithful and always a part of the relationship and very active within it. And alongside that, you want your commitment shouldn't be wavered by a problem unless it like ties into your morals and stuff like that.
All right, so building on what Idalys just said, and we're just gonna run over everything again. So first thing, what does it mean and how to achieve it? Mutual respect is the first thing in a relationship, and respect means that each person values who the other is and understands other person's boundaries. And mutual respect should come along with mutual trust and affection. And so no one is doing more work than the other. This may not apply in situations where one partner is vulnerable and requires full attention and care, as in those cases necessary to provide support without any expectation of reciprocity, as it based on love and respect. It is crucial to recognize the needs of others and offer help when needed, without keeping score or expecting something in return. This is the foundation of healthy relationship and is a build for a trust and mutual support. Trust, partners should place trust in each other's and give each other the benefit of the doubt, embrace imperfection, understand each other, align on core values and beliefs, improve communication, create a judgment-free zone, listen to them, set time with them, and emotional management, be vulnerable, make each other a priority to each other. And I said mutual respect should go along with mutual trust. And I put a little hand where each partner should do the part that they should have done, they should do in the relationship to make it nurture it and make it better. And yeah, and let's go into, I'm gonna talk about what is intimate relationship. So intimacy is, the basic definition is a close relationship where mutual acceptance grow and trust are shared at the some level. It's getting close, like what Idalys has mentioned. And so it's often characterized by attitudes of mutual trust, caring, and acceptance. Is the ability to love and trust and care for others in both sexual way in a relationship and non-sexual way. So is being close in general. So in this case, being close to someone in that relationship. How to be faithful in a relationship. And you can go to the next slide. I will talk to it later on it about the misunderstanding. But how to be a faithful in relationship. Try to build time around each other's schedule. Each week, to recap, don't be lost in the loop of work and school that you forget your own partner. Try to nurture each other's past and career goals, lifting each other up even in the hardest times, and that you're always there for each other, and that shows that you care and showing that you're committing to them. And being honest, tell them how you feel, being kind, watch yourself when spending time with your partner. It isn't okay that like someone was something else while you talk to them. Make time for them, just for them. And not taking anything for granted. They likely to do several things for you each day so that you don't even think about. If they stop doing those things, consider how you would feel. So it's important to not take them for granted and respect them, and try to put your part as well. Big thing, work out when your problem gets fixed together. When you align your problem with each other and just sit down and just say, let's just think about it. Those are the solution, rule of elimination, and we can go from there. Don't try to hide it, even if it's hard conversations. It's hard. And of course, take your time, but not hide from your own partner, because you vowed that you will always be there for each other, however it takes. It's a commitment that you should do every time, because you got into this relationship, so you have to put, if you got into it, you have responsibility and not can play around. And so let's get into how to fix misunderstandings. I put a couple things. So first thing is to clarify your feelings. Take time to explain your feelings and not jumping into conclusions. Let your partner finish what they're talking about before cutting them or just telling me, oh, is that why you did it? Just let them finish, because the train of thought could make them forget something really important you should really know in a relationship. So always let them finish what they're talking and their feelings. And like I said, healthy relationship should be built on trust and communication and mutual support. And I really like what Idalys put, the communication in the middle. It's a vital component for trust and everything. And can you show it again, Idalys? Go back.
Let's scoot back.
Oh,
That was it.
Here we go.
yeah. So like here, communication is rooted to intimacy. Is communication can make you close to your partner, and also with passion, because you understand how they see romantic love or compassionate love, intimacy plus commitment, and it like it roots to everything in your life. So communication here, building communication will build other things in your life, and you can have a serious talk and know what your other partner are feeling and needs. And also like it's related to passion and commitment, because when those align, the commitment aligns, and then it becomes one goal. And even if they're in different career, you and your partner, you still can help each other grow your careers as well as your growth as human and as someone who you care about and love for the rest of your life. And can you go back to the last slide again? Sorry. So, and like I said, when fixing misunderstanding, if true love exists from post partners, misunderstanding shouldn't be hard to resolve because both partners are willing to listen and support each other. If you're in a relationship and you can fix a misunderstanding and is really hard to do, it isn't real from the beginning, because true love, like Simone and Annette said, shouldn't be hard and it shouldn't hurt. And like I said, this is my opinion, but it's better to be single than to be in a toxic relationship that exhausts your energy and changes your perspective towards think bad of other people and how they perceive, how they base their like the people on, like how they think of someone because they had bad experience of everyone else, because different people, there's different people, and finding the right one it can be hard and it can be easy. Sometimes the birds fall with each other, sometimes they don't. And you just gotta match them, and one isn't matched, go for the other, but don't be in a one because you want this affection and have physical needs. No, you can do better and try to connect with yourself spiritually. And also one thing for me, try to choose a partner that makes you closer to God and not further away. Nurture your strengths in you to be stronger and not weaker. Makes you know who God is and not makes you far away. So both partners, if anyone takes you away from that, then go away. This isn't healthy. It can be healthy, but not as much. So be with someone that loves you for who you are and not because of an attraction. You want to be in a relationship that leads to long-term commitment and marriage, and that is worth fighting for. And that's my cue out, and we can receive questions now.
Wonderful. It was a great presentation. Can we applaud first and then just be happy that you gave such a brilliant presentation? And people were sending chats. I don't know if you noticed, but some people had to leave, but they wanted to express their gratitude. So with Edie and Al and anyone else, please just try to quickly get your questions in, just to be respectful of everyone's honors. And then also we're having dinner, I think, together with the presenters. So they need to get in the car and drive out here. So yes. Edie?
My question was speaking to relationship. And I kept thinking when it was the information pointed to the other person, I kept thinking, what behavior am I displaying that I would keep attracting that same kind of person? So I wanted to speak to that. And then I remembered hearing somebody say, we teach people how to treat us just by our being. So
Dr. Phil.
Dr. Phil.
Yes, that's a good question. If you don't mind me putting in a little input, I think for me, I had the same question. Like, what am I doing to attract the same people? And I noticed that I realized that every person I come across, they kind of show me something that's inside me, whether it's good, whether it's bad, whether I like it or I don't like it, they either show something about myself, or it's going to be the same cycle until I acknowledge something. It was typically something about that they were doing that I've experienced in the past or that I've seen in the past, and I didn't fully acknowledge or fully heal from. So I don't know if that's the case, but I think maybe that might be a little bit.
Great answer. Thank
I
you.
just actually ran a make on 2 different people. One of them was the man that my daughter was going to marry.
Mhm.
And I found a negative on there. He'd been arrested. And she went ahead and married him anyway. He turned out to be an alcoholic, but they've made it 10 years so far. And then the other one, I forget what it was, but I don't hesitate to do that. Oh, it's my granddaughter, Janine, now. She has a permanent boyfriend. So I told her, you know what I'm going to do.
Great. Thank you. If that answered your question, Edie, and no other presenter has a comment, we'll go to Al's question. I don't mean to rush everyone, but it looks like we don't have an answer. So, I mean, another question. So
Yeah.
Al,
Sure. First of all, just wanted to thank you. It was a great presentation. I learned that I have to get a PhD in psychology, criminology, and sociology in order to have a relationship. But everything was great. I'll make it quick. I have a feedback, a correction, a suggestion, and a question. My feedback was for your presentation. It was awesome. But for example, the beginning of the presentation, the whole presentation was geared towards abuse from male to female. It wasn't until the last two slides that finally the fact came that, hey, abuse could be from either side. It's not just, so the examples that you use, don't always use he against she. No, you also you use the in your last slide that one in 4 women and 1 in 9 men have experienced blah. Whenever you use statistics, always use a source. Where did you get that information? Because if you get it from Wikipedia, that's not a good source. But whenever you have statistics, always say the source. As far as the correction, I have to disagree. That's my personal view with your disclaimer that says never, never, ever your fault. It's always your fault as well. So if you're being abused, it means that you let them abuse you. So you are partially responsible for that. If you know that you're not supposed to be, whether sexually, physically, mentally, and whatever it is, abused, then you should do something about it. And it is your fault for some reason, because either you're not knowledgeable enough about it, or you're just too timid or too afraid to do anything. That's my point of view. As far as the suggestion, I would suggest that you have more content in Gen Z's viewpoints. It was a general presentation about relationships, but what I wanted to hear, because I have a Gen Z son. Mm-hmm. So what I wanted to hear was, what is your perspective and what you want to see as in a relationship? And my question is, if you have time to answer it, I want to know, who are your role models when it comes to relationships? That's it.
Okay, let me just say that, yeah, we're just here for some questions, and of course, positive and constructive criticism is always helpful, but let's just keep the mode happy, and we're very grateful for your presentation. And then, maybe you could share some chat directly to individuals. But there are, let's see the order. I think Annette had the first item, and then yeah, you had, okay. No, I'm sorry. Annette had a question raising her hand, but if you want to answer that, please do. And then Hoosh and Diane, in whatever order you can come in with your questions. But yes, Simone, if you have something you want to address, please.
sorry, not to jump in front of anybody, but I think I thank you for the feedback, Al. I want to say thank you. Thank you for your opinions. It's greatly, greatly appreciated. But I also want to say that for us as Gen Z, I think a lot of us are trying to figure out what relationships are. I think from coming from our parents, we didn't really have this information of what it is and what it isn't, and what's crime and what's abuse and what's not. And so a lot of us come from swept under the rug families, and you don't talk about it, and it's taboo. So for our perspective, I just want to say that this is our perspective. Our perspective is, hey, we need to talk about the facts so that we can like be in a relationship, because the facts aren't talked about enough. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you. So let's hear from Annette, and then maybe Diane was next. I'm not sure. And then Hush.
Okay, I'm going to try and stay as calm as I can be. I would like to, first of all, say my appreciation to our young people for a very well thought out and very well presented. I can tell how much work you put into this. Thank you very much. Calmly and gently, I will say I completely disagree with, and I'll leave it at that, with some of the comments made prior. And unless you've been on the other side of abuse, you cannot say that it's the receiver of abuse's fault. And I had to say that out loud. And unless you're a child receiving abuse, a woman receiving abuse, we are never at fault. When you're the receiver, I will stand up until my dying breath that a child, a woman, a man, an animal is never at fault. Whether you can raise your voice or not, sometimes your voice is ripped from you or punched from you. That comment, I would ask that you please rethink that comment, because when you are under the thumb of somebody, either physically, verbally, or emotionally, that you may not have a chance. And I am proud to say that I have survived that. And some of these children, some of these young people, they're learning now, and they are having the strength, and they have the voice. I now have a voice. I actually had a conversation with my son today, and he thanked me in tears for the courage and the strength that I gave him, that he didn't get from his father to be the man that he is today. He has 2 children of his own. One, he created, another he's helping raise 3 other children, and he told me the strength that I gave him. Coming from a broken situation, the strength that I turned around, I could have been the other side of the story, and I'm not. So forgive me, you can block this piece out, Andrea. But I must say, I am no longer a victim. I'm not even a survivor. I am strong because God gave me the strength and gave me a voice, and I will not apologize for standing up, and I've made it my life's work to be there for the children and to love children and give them a voice. And that's where God gave me the phrase, you are glorious simply because you're breathing. You don't have to be anything or do anything except stand there and be glorious. And that's what I say. And thank you for listening. And I don't mean to be on a soapbox, and I love you. I love each and every one of you, no matter what.
Thank you, Nanette. Thank you for being so heartfelt and so sincere. Thank you. Okay, Diane, and then quickly, Hush.
I have a question, but then I also have a suggestion. I hope, Sohaila, with Xandra or whoever, that this is not the only presentation that these young people make. I want to see them do this with their peers.
Yes. Yes, maybe we'll have more sessions.
It's hitting the heart.
Thank you.
And they know all about that with me. But it was absolutely amazing.
Yes, thank you.
And my question is, when you were, Annette, you were talking about the, in the media and TV shows and things that were not positive and terrible examples. I'm curious, what kind of shows do you think are good? Are there any shows out there that you think are worth watching for young people and anybody?
I'm going to be honest, I'm not a big movie or TV person.
Okay.
I don't really know because I feel like I'm trying to think of like a show that really has, or like a movie that has a really, really wholesome couple, and I can't think about one.
You know, your age is beyond I Love Lucy, but I think people will enjoy looking at those couples in the past and learn some lessons.
I can't think of one. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. That's all right.
Okay, anyone else has any suggestions? Any of the other youngsters could tell us about that. If not, Hoosh, with your question, please, because we're getting very close. I'm sorry to be rushing you, but we're at the verge of our time together.
That's okay. I just kind of want to address some of the comments as well. Also from a man's perspective, which may be a little different. So I do understand the fact that abuse against men wasn't brought up until the last or second to last slide, whatever it was. I don't see that as a slight. The majority of abuse goes the other way, and that's just the nature of things. And when it comes to abuse directed against men, there's all these reasons why we don't report, we underreport. There's shame, there's machismo, there's all these things involved. So there's a lot of that kind of makes it a lot more complex. And the fact that it would seem it would ever be anyone who's been abused's fault, even in the slightest bit, in any way, that just hits me wrong. And I think there's so many different ways that it's being reduced into, oh, you should have known better, or that's it. But there's a lot more to it. There's physical abuse, there's sexual abuse, financial abuse can be a big one. When these things are pushing on you and you have no outlet, whether you're a man or a woman, you've gotten to a place where it's beyond your control. And whether you should have known better, that's not even a question that should be asked. It's more, how do we extricate this person and get them to a better place? Because you should have known better doesn't do anything for the abuser. It doesn't do anything for the victim. It's kind of a reductionist way of saying, oh, this is simple. I'm not going to look at the details. There's always an abuser and there's always a victim. And the last thing we want to do is make the victim feel even worse than they already feel. And that, it's not great. It's not a great feeling, to say the least. So it's very reductionist to say, hey, they should have known better. They should have left. They should have done something. They shouldn't have gone back. And there's a lot of complexity to this issue in all these different forms. So I just wanted to throw my 2 cents in as another man here.
Thank you. Thank you. And let me throw in my 2 cents too. I really suggest that anyone who wants to speak about this issue do a lot of research into the history, to the years and centuries where the humanity has not flown to its heights of excellence because of the oppression and then the marginalization of women. And that is a fact that could be backed up by every science, every statistic, every study. And if we keep going with the same trend, it will take 500 years or so for us to even be thinking of equality of men and women. So our mindset has to shift from who do we blame as to how do we get to the root of the problem and never make those errors again. And in some states, in this United States of America, up until about a few years ago, the victim, a 9-year-old girl, victim of a rape by a pastor in Florida. This story came out and we shared it. So please read up on these things. That pastor was made to marry the girl, or else she was being prosecuted. A 9-year-old girl at the age of 11 had kids from this man who was the rapist, and her own mother would not acknowledge and validate it because of the shame. I mean, there's so much in the history of what has happened to women over the course of the years that to worry about which slide they fall in, or do we mention men or not? Yes, but it's men who need to take ownership and come in. Even those abused men should come to the stage and shift this thinking, this paradigm, that who do we blame for this, or who do we prosecute? You know, a 9-year-old girl being raped is not at fault. Please do not let us even start thinking about that. Otherwise, we will take another 500,000 years before we change anything. Miss Barbara, please.
Yeah, I would like to just mention that the reason we started these women's workshops in the first place was an awareness of the large numbers of women who found themselves in untenable positions because of their relationships, and felt that they had nowhere to go, no one to listen, no one to care. And from Sohaila's law practice, we began to see that there was a need for a place where women could come and express their mutual concerns, find support, find relationships, find information, and feel that they were valued for not only domestic abuse, but other kinds of problems that women face. And so that was the inception of this women's workshop. And although I hope that we have been helpful to a number of women who have participated, the problem persists. I mean, it hasn't gone away in the least. So I am very happy that these young people have done an excellent job of presenting an issue from their perspective, but backed up with the research that they have done. And I'm thinking that it may be possible for our program with junior high school girls to see this work that you've done. I think it would be very helpful. And since it's done well, it's simple, it's clean, it's easy to understand. If these young people would agree to make it available, I think that our junior high school girls could benefit.
Thank you. And on top of that, if they allow us to give credit to them, but keep their presentation on our website as well. So if people listen to all of us giving our opinions, that they would just go to their presentation and we will get that permission from them. But honestly, it was an excellent presentation. I've given presentations on domestic violence, on relationships, and abuse, and I would say I'm totally impressed. It was very nicely done. And CDC, you know, our Center for Disease Control, you know, in America, in this country of you know, being first in everything and being the best in everything, they wouldn't catch up with this abuse until the cost of treating women who were being abused and injured. And these are not the ones who were dead, because there was no cost of treatment, right? So it was the concern over the overwhelming cost of treatment of women who would eventually report, who would eventually feel that they're not at fault and they should come out and report, that they thought this is a disease that needs to be controlled, and it is an epidemic that needs to be addressed. And for those reasons, I think the statistics are everywhere on the internet, and not Wikipedia, but centers such as Centers for Disease Control and many colleges and universities with backed up studies and scientific data. So with that,
sorry, Andrea has had her hand up a couple of times. I think has something that she.
Okay, I saw her heart up.
No, I was just applauding everyone's comment.
Oh, okay.
No, thank you, Sohaila. You can wrap up if you'd like.
Thank you. Yes,
Okay.
I'm very mindful of the hands that are clapping as well as the ones that are raising.
Then I need new glasses.
Thank you for bringing that up. No, we're among friends, as we said. Again, Al, thank you for your comments. But we are so grateful to the students, so overwhelmed with their energy and their research that we just didn't want to hear anything negative about it. So, but thank you for being sincere and honest and heartfelt. All of you have a great evening. Kids, I'm still waiting for you. We can postpone the time a little bit, but I'll just be sitting there waiting for you. Okay, text me if anything changed. All right.
Thank you, everybody.
Good
Thank
night,
you,
everyone.
and thank you to the Women on the
Thank
Move Network.
you. Bye.
Thank you, Andrea.
Bye, everyone. I'll see you
Bye, y'all.
next Saturday because the place is
Bye.
closed tomorrow,
Thank
right?
you, everyone.
Yeah.
Bye.